I am author Michelle Lee, which you probably already knew because this is the second part of my zombie novella, The List. If you missed the first part, you probably want to go back and check it out. It is posted on my Facebook page, and I am probably going to upload it to YouTube. I'm not sure because I don't know if you've ever read YouTube comments, but those people are pretty mean, pretty vicious for no apparent reason. And I struggle a little bit with self confidence and imposter syndrome. So I'm still deciding on that one. Anyway, I'm picking up pretty much right where we left off. Here we go. What the list isn't: 1. Pretty. 2. Noble. 3. Something you want to end up on. Other people in the new, nasty, gone to hell world might have been working on lists too. People to check on, and hopefully save, places to forage for supplies, new laws for this brave new effed up world. My list was just a numerically ordered arrangement of the douchebags and jagoffs I wanted to see dead. Undead and miserable, and then really dead and brain fried like poor Frank the Freak. The Freak's apartment netted me some good stuff. Nothing weapony outside of his toolbox staples, because Frank didn't like being around blades, for obvious reasons. He didn't even have a cheap steak knife, but he did have lots of food staples and cans of dried good boxes, all with plain white labels of government commodities. Lots of good survival foods could be found through commodities and food banks, since they focus on stuff that's supposed to help keep you from starving. Burger King it ain't, but not everyone has the same idea of necessity and survival. Give me an industrial-sized can of green beans and some ramen noodles, and I could eat like a king. I'd given up ideas of Leave It to Beaver life, or hell, even a married with children life at a pretty young age. There's the thought that brought me around to my parents again. Frank's supplies looked nice on the cheap metal shelves with my own. There's something explicitly pleasurable about a full shelf of canned goods, all lined up in a pretty row. But the most useful thing that he gave me, other than the list, was the ring of keys that gave him access to the other apartments. The third ring they don't tell you is that a lot of the doors have the same keys, saves the landlord money, and makes it easier for the maintenance people to get around. Okay, so they won't tell you because it's not supposed to be true. But companies aren't supposed to use lead in toothpaste or kitty toys either, and you know how that one turned out. And people wonder where the zombies came from. Could it be the mega infusion between gallons of preservatives we put in our food, the chemicals we use to strip the wild world around us into something wholesome and safe, and our nasty little habit of medicating ourselves for everything? Not normal enough. There's a pill for that. Not hard enough. There's a bunch of pills for that. Not sane enough? Well, looky there. Pills for that too. We lived in a chemically driven, drug head culture, then scoff at the poor, stupid addict's life, crushed and left behind. Well, at least I'm not them. We scoff at meth heads while swallowing our Xanax to fall asleep after mainlining caffeine pills to keep going all day. Where's the recovery centers for boner pills or shopping or too much McDonald's? Even better, where's the recovery center for being a douche with too much money? For having to blow it on silver toilet seats and gold foil wallpaper. Now there's a problem I'd like to have. Not that it matters now. The Freak had no pills and few medical supplies. A cheaply stocked first aid kit with generic band-aids and burn cream and his happy pills. Aspirin and Tums. I had put my fist through his mirror before I packed his government handout food in my backpack and hazarded my way back down the stairs. It was when I was putting my finds on my shelves that I thought, if I was going to do this, I should do it properly. The building was not bad as far as bases go. I could clear out the apartments one by one, board up the windows and patios on the lower levels, and hide away for as long as I could. I didn't exactly hope for a rescue. I didn't consider myself worth rescuing after all. But survival? Yeah, we all want that. I should start at the bottom and work my way up. But instead, distracted, I started with the list and worked my way down. Betty Jones was the first official name on the list. Y'all probably thought it was Frank the Freak, but no, Frank was ultimately a good guy, and the list proper doesn't have any good guys on it. Betty Jones was a sexy bombshell blonde, in a Moreau and a bottle of hair dye way, not in a Nordic model way. who lived on the second floor. She had this little yappy dog, but she didn't dress it up in clothes or carry it around in a purse. A holdover from her hormonal teen years, perhaps. She did walk it past the door to my hovel every day before the event that turned the world to shit. So I got plenty of Betty to look at, always aware that there was more to see. I want to think Betty was a good, sweet person, but she's on the list, so we know by now that she's not. Not to me, anyway. I think it was Tuesday when I ventured up to her apartment with my survival kit, but it's so hard to tell the days apart anymore. I mean, it used to be that I knew which day it was by which version of Law and Order was on. Now, there was no power and no television. How are you supposed to tell the days apart? I giggled to myself as I paddled across the hideous maroon and cream carpet of the hall. How many people were locked away, surviving but going completely nuts due to lack of Springer or some other crap? Like, oh my god, couldn't the world have ended during summer rerun season? For sure. I got a little excited scenario running in my head of Betty being alive and exceedingly grateful for me rescuing her and her little dog. Maybe of us being the two plucky survivors getting it on as the sun set over the burning world. I'd asked her out once, maybe twice. I used to help her carry her groceries up the stairs, and a couch once too. She always smiled to my face and made pretty thank you sounds, but then turned me down flat every time I asked her out. I admit it, I'm not perfect. I'm a little upset about how I helped her out every time I could, and she couldn't even give me a pity date. And after the apocalypse, the first thing I did was broke into the mailboxes for a little light reading. What I found there was unpleasant at best. The 80-year-old widow on the third floor was getting rewards points from sex toy companies. The Jensens had about $50,000 wrapped up in various collections companies that were after them. And Betty told her mother that I was that creepy guy in the basement she could get to do things for her. Seriously? For helping her out? For a little common courtesy? Creepy? And the whole sweet and nice thing was just a rip to make me do things for her? What had the world been coming to? Before the end, I mean. When the nice guy downstairs, always willing to lend a hand or a back or a cup of sugar, is creepy. Would the little old lady be creeped out if a Boy Scout offered to help her cross the street? Maybe the Scouts with their anti-gay but pro-straight guys who molest weren't the best example. And the church? Yeah, I'm not even getting into that one. But that's my point. Is everyone so deceitful, so neurotic and nasty that they project their inner sins onto everyone else? Are we so damn paranoid between rapists, providing the victim didn't ask to be raped, and the bad uncles and the rise of the minorities who are just out to get the white man, don't you know, that everyone around us is our potential killer, nothing but a pain bringer, and it's one against the world for the win? Well, I mean, it's kind of like that now that everyone's a zombie. But before, did she have to be a bitch when all I was trying to do was help her out and asking for the pleasure of her company? It's a compliment. I find you charming and attractive, and I want to spend my time in your presence. For that, I'm creepy? Which is why she was the first one on my list. Which is why I was standing outside her door looking for the right key. Which is when I heard moans, and any illusion I had about rescuing her and having a post-zombie happily ever after, or even just some of the world's fucked survivor pity sex, died in all of 3 seconds flat. And Betty's little yappy dog, yeah, that's probably what I slipped on when I stepped in the door, fast as I could, so that I could shut it behind me for a little security. I'd be screwed if someone, or some undead thing, snuck up behind me while I was preoccupied. The dog made a noise somewhere between a squish and a squeak, and then it was really like a juicy roach liquid that gushed out of its body and hit the wall. Did the disease affect it too? Great. Zombie rats in this hellhole were the last thing I needed. Oh well, it's not like she was going to get her deposit back anytime soon. I muttered a sorry to the dog, but from the look of the little thing's twisted form, I hadn't been the one to kill it. I just stumbled on it. And then it was then that I realized that I had actually expected to find Betty alive, and then that I realized that was rather unlikely. The moans came from the bedroom, which I approached with a sick feeling in my stomach. The apartments, more or less, were arranged the same. Some were mirror images of the others, and some had one bedroom and others two. Betty's was a one-room standard. Hall to the kitchen on the right, tiny dining room that she turned into an office area through that, living room, then bathroom and master bedroom to the front. Later, when I had time to really look through all the place, I noticed the black and white prints on the wall, the not quite dead lilies in the vase on the glass table in the center of the room, and all the little details that refreshingly and aggravatingly said Betty. She was a classy dame, after all, shabby chic and target class, you know. No sparkly pins or college remnants to be seen unless you count the smear on the carpet that used to be a dog. But then there was just the groaning and the red-hot build of pressure in my face. My axe came to my hand like I'd summoned it, and the bedroom door gave way with the smallest push. My caution was warranted, but overblown because there were two zombies on the bed. But they were very busy. My stomach rolled when I saw it. Betty, naked, bleeding, and whatever she'd brought home, his face a raw red mess and all his extremities pulled or bitten or worn off. The smell was not as bad as I expected. Neither was the mess. The room smelled like blood and sex. The cool dark must have kept the really nasty smells away. And the zombies on the bed were still having sex in their own way, which involved a lot more of the less pleasant kind of eating out. Their sex parts were long gone, but they were still managing to get into one another, if you get what I mean. I suppose when done well, real fucking well, it can look a lot like fighting. From what I saw, blood and guts and which body part was in whom aside, it looked like Betty was a really good lay. Two good running steps closed the distance between us and the good old American steel, with my not below average weight behind it, cut through the side of his face. A good wrench split the rest of his skull, letting his brain fall out onto the floor, where I gave it the same treatment as the dog. See, more proof that nature sets us up for this, even going so far as to make the brain the most protected organ in the body. This is how the human story ends, not in glory and boldly going where no man has gone before, or blasting ourselves into nuclear nothingness, but becoming something useless, stupid, and dangerous, waddling around well past our expiration date, our usefulness used up, devouring ourselves, our loved ones, and random strangers as we implode, sometimes literally. Beneath the mail, Betty was screaming as only a zombie can, lipless, tongueless, noseless, and not so much bleeding as gushing out viscous fluid that was more slime and disease than anything else. All that bitterness, all that rage of being rejected, not only by her, but by whatever it was that took out the human race but left me behind, trash left on the human shore after a really awesome picnic, welled up inside of me. When I brought my axe down, it cut clean through her face and the jelly brain and bit into the mattress beneath her. Behind it was peace, a calm I hadn't felt in weeks, like vegging out after a hard day and reflecting on a job well done. There would be no more compliments from bosses, or bonuses on payday, no more working Saturdays while the boss slept in. The serenity and calm protecting myself, and yeah, a little touch of vindication as well, was my new payday. Betty's pilfered food slid onto my shelf, and the best night's sleep I'd gotten since the zombies first showed up got me through a week, maybe more. It gave me peace. Peace is its own absolution when it feels like the world is trying to drive you mad.